Good. Hi everyone.
Welcome to In Deep. I'm Ed. You might not notice that I'm not Ross. I finally got a chance to host the stream. I'm just going to say welcome back to our regular viewers. You know who you are. Say hi in the chat if you're here. I thought we were going to be in an empty room today, so thanks for turning out to watch. We're really proud of the little community we've got going. And it's great if you guys can join in on the chat and post any questions you might have. If you're new to the channel, we're basically here to discover the talent, inspiration, and challenges behind the best film, television, games, and advertising. And if you've got any questions, just fire them. Anything related to our guest today or just general banter is welcome. We've got some prizes on offer, as always, this week from the generous chaps at 5 Points Brewery. We've got some brewery tour tickets for those of you who throw yourselves in and get involved in the chat. And Ross will probably be rolling his CGI dice on Friday afternoon, so that's something to tune in for. The excitement is underwhelming. Without further ado, I'd like to just announce who we've got on today. It's Jamie Thomas. He's a sound designer from Unit. I think we might have the Unit website up, and you can see some of his work there. He's an award-winning sound designer. He's got an impressive reel. It stretches from advertising through to shorts, and also there's quite a few trailers for some very well-known TV series there. So we'll be having a look at some of those today in a bit more detail, but you can head over in your own time and check out his whole back catalogue there. So yeah, without further ado, I'd like to welcome Jamie Thomas to Indeed. Hi, Jamie.
Hello, Ed. How are you, mate? You all right?
I'm good. Got the intro out of the way.
Yeah, I was expecting that.
We can become a human again.
Yeah, interesting times. Interesting times to be doing this, mate.
Yeah. We can do the lockdown version.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely.
So
lockdown hair.
Yeah. I've had the lockdown haircut and the lockdown facial hair. It's just boredom is turning me to moustache growing.
I know. I ate a banana with a knife and fork the other day.
Just for change. Yeah, it's strange times. So apart from eating bananas with knives and forks, are you doing anything in particular get you through this?
Do you know, it's actually, funnily enough, we've actually been able to work from home. So I've got some kit here just in front of me. And yeah, we've just been working from home pretty relentlessly for a lockdown, I would say. And then in between doing that, just because I've got stuff in my front room and nowhere to eat, I've just sort of been doing other stuff, making tunes and just mucking around generally in a sort of sound way. So yeah, it's actually been really good. Really good to not constantly be bothered by people. Right, learning new things and doing just trying to alleviate the boredom of lockdown, I would say, which has worked well.
So are you used to the remote working alone kind of experience? Is that how would you normally be locked away in a sound studio?
Yeah, normally be locked away in a room with no windows. So actually, this is really rather luxurious. But yeah, but we don't work remotely or anything at work. But you know, we do sessions over the internet and stuff. But actually, working remotely from home, it's been different. It's nice because I guess people rely on you more for getting the right sound, getting the job done, talking through voiceovers who, have never recorded themselves before and make sure everything sounds all right when they're recording themselves, and not being able to go and visit them has been a challenge, but it's been good. It's been nice, nice to kind of impart knowledge, and in terms of getting to the end product, it's much more of a kind of team effort. So that's how I feel about lockdown and working. I mean, it does have its pitfalls, and there is a lot of back and forth between clients. And sometimes it's a challenge not having everyone in the room to just kind of be able to go, "Ooh, what do you think of this? What do you think of that?" Because obviously sound is so subjective. Kind of do a mix, you send it off to someone, and then you get kind of sheets and sheets of feedback. And you're like, well, it can be quite interesting. But like I said, I think definitely looking at it from a positive point of view.
Good. So is that you've done a recent? Is it the Dove campaign?
That was. I know it was probably about. It might have been about a year ago or so.
Okay.
But that was just a really nice thing to do, because it was.
Oh, maybe I'm thinking of Radox actually. There's a recent campaign out at the moment that you guys were responsible
Radox,
for.
everyone singing in the bar.
Yeah, that's it. Radox. Sorry. So that's a lockdown job, is it?
Yeah, that was interesting. It was kind of one of those things of like, the director saying, well, maybe we could just get everyone to sing along on their phones and have the song playing in the background. And you're kind of going, well, you could do that, but you're going to have the song playing in the background as well as them singing, as well as the actual.
Yeah.
But it was, and actually in the end, it worked out all right, because their phones were not necessarily audible. The singing was bad enough and loud enough that it covered the sound of the phones, and then we had the kind of instrumental of the track under as well. So that it actually worked well. But again, it's nice people coming to you as a first point of call and asking you how they should do stuff and go about things, as opposed to just post-shoot just getting a load of stuff and going, oh, sorry, that's all we got. So nice. Very nice.
I think we might be having some technical difficulties with the stream with the camera. Okay. I think there's a bit of a lag, so apologies for anyone viewing it. And if you try turning off your camera and then turning it back on again, that might.
My camera.
Yeah, if you can switch from. I think we're still getting some good audio.
Okay, hang on. I will try now, sir.
Yeah. Yep.
Is that better?
I think we can roll with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fine. It's sound we care about, mate.
It's sound, exactly. It's all about the sound today. So. Yeah, exactly. I mean. Maybe I'm jumping the gun with going back here, but did you ever work as a sound recordist? As a sound man?
No, is the answer to that. But only on stuff where I'm recording stuff for myself or for projects that we do.
Yeah.
I will go out and record things that I need, Foley bits and stuff, but. And everyone, if they've got a phone on them, everyone's got a way of recording something.
Yeah.
And as a sound guy, you're always constantly listening out for stuff. So just as and when is the answer.
Yeah.
I'm not a dedicated sound recordist. There are people that have been doing that for years, and I wouldn't want to tread on that.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll find out more about your actual way into the role. Yeah. So, how did you come to arrive on this as a career? What was the early the start?
Without realizing that I wanted to do it, basically, I'd never. I mean, even as a kid, I'd always paid attention to sound, and now looking back, there are certain things in films that I'd see, like stuff I'd heard in films, and it always kind of stayed with me. and I didn't really know that that was what I wanted to do. Cut to, leaving school and sort of having a few years in the wilderness, I would say, working in factories, being a removals man, and sort of jobs that you do when you're sort of 20 odd. And then sort of stumbled across a sound engineering course at a university. Went and did that. Got a diploma. Thought that the world was my oyster. And then started applying for jobs at post-production companies, recording studios, anything to do with sound. Got rejected for 6 months, but such is the way that with anyone leaving university doing that's what happens.
Yeah.
And then from sort of the heady heights of having my qualifications and everything to serving tea to people in Soho, which again is where everyone starts off. So I got a job as a runner at a post-production facility, sound facility. It isn't there anymore. It's a place called Saunders and Gordon, and it had been there throughout the 80s, and then I joined, and then they shut down.
The terrible tea you're making.
Yeah. So yeah, I did that and basically got my foot in the door that way. I mean, previously to that, kind of in my wilderness years, I would say, we and a couple of friends actually built a studio in a friend's garage. Kind of, we had like 3 bedrooms came together of sort of sound stuff. We didn't have a clue what we were doing, but it was a good footing to kind of learn things and learn how to use, all well and good using the equipment, but use it in a way that gets you results in certain situations with clients, and just learning about your gear and the way that you use it. It was invaluable. So that was really good. And then tea and coffee.
What were those first jobs when you were in the garage? What kind of thing were you working on?
So it was basically just people recording singers and stuff like that. There was, I mean, bearing in mind it was a garage, there was a Brazilian band that we had in there, everyone playing instruments in one room. Looking back on it now, it was absolutely insane. So everyone's kind of people sitting on the floor, weird instruments as well, like obviously Brazilian instruments. We did that. We recorded Beth Alton.
Wow.
That was kind of through a friend. Recorded her.
Was that before she became?
No, it was weird. Interestingly, it was for. She was on a track. There was a girl called Princess Superstar, who was a rapper from New York, and Beth Alton featured on one of her tracks. And they recorded it in a garage.
In your garage. So
basically.
And when you'd worked your way into the post sound companies, what was the process then? Were you just assisting people and getting in that way?
No, it was tea, just tea and coffee, and no one really kind of says anything. No one really says, oh, by the way, you should probably maybe learn this or do that. I mean, I thought I was going to be serving tea and coffee for about a month, and then I'd just be straight in a suite, being a sound engineer. Oh, how naive. So no one really sort of tells you anything. I was at the first company I was with until they shut down. That was about a year. And then I went and joined another company, a place called Grand Central, which is Soho as well. And I was the runner there as well. And there were people in the machine room. Basically, I had friends in the machine room I used to hang about with after work, basically learn stuff from them, just learn how to do stuff they were doing, basically. And then when a space came free in the machine room, the boss there said, who's ready to move up? And I was the only one that basically shown an interest. But so by default, I got given the opportunity and really look back. So it was kind of just once you kind of get in there and you people know that you want to be a sound engineer, you know that that's what you're passionate about, you know something about it, then it's a lot easier. Whereas I think, you know, people to begin with, runners, really cool.
Yeah.
So you really have to make an effort to let people know that's what you want to do. And not so much kind of just saying, oh, that's what I want to do. You've really got to kind of force yourself into a position, because they could turn around one day and say, right, you're up. And if you don't know what you're doing, then you're in trouble. But if you do, you'll find say. So that was that.
That's good advice, I think, for anyone.
You've got to. I mean, you have to. There's no. I mean, and I'm very passionate about this. In that, you know, you can't just hang around waiting for stuff to happen. You have to show people that you're passionate. And even, in fact, I actually eventually left Grand Central, ironically, because I couldn't see a space opening up as a sound engineer. There was kind of, you know, a backlog. And a friend who was working at the studio said he had another friend who was freelancing and needed someone to take some work on his behalf. So I went along, had a meeting with Guy, and he said, this will always stick with me. He said, look, I could tell that you didn't really know what you were doing, but you were passionate and you were eager to learn, and that's why I hired you. And so that it has always stuck with me. And if people are passionate about things and they're eager to learn and they don't make the same mistakes twice, then, you know, that's what most people I think are looking for.
Yeah.
You don't want someone who's just going to come along and pretend they know it all and blah, blah, blah. You kind of need to, you just need to let people know that you're enthusiastic.
Yeah.
And that will go a long way. Enthusiasm goes
good attitude, isn't it?
No, definitely.
So we'll come back to more techie, geeky stuff, because I want to know kind of what you were working in back then. But let's talk more generally for people who may be not really sure what a sound designer does.
Mm-hmm.
Your email sig actually reads Sonic Alchemist. So maybe you can tell us about the role of sonic alchemy.
Oh God. So that was a bit of a joke. But I mean, a sound designer is someone who generally takes things and makes sounds out of things that you wouldn't necessarily think. I had my son round here today, and I was kind of showing him something that I was doing. He was playing around with a bottle. He was kind of just going like that. He goes, oh, look, I had gunshot. I was like, okay, let's make a gunshot. So I literally recorded the bottle cracking, played it in. I then taught him the expression "limit the shit out," and turned it into a gunshot, a little bit of reverb. And he was like, wow, that's amazing. Wow. It'll probably just sound like a bang, but that's what. So this is it on its own. Hear that?
Yeah.
So that was it. That was a plastic bottle. So that was
there's a gunshot.
Plastic bottle. And he was like, wow. We also turned a burp into a dinosaur. So yeah, sound designers do that. We take everyday objects, or maybe not everyday objects, make sounds out of them, twist them, bend them, pitch them, do all sorts of things, and hopefully end up with something akin to sound that's going to work to picture or not to picture, and they, get some kind of feeling across.
Yeah. And so you mentioned when you were a kid you were kind of certain films stuck with you. What do you remember which film you first saw at the cinema and just went, oh wow, that's amazing sound?
I saw E.T. at the cinema. The only thing I remember from that is it made me cry. But no, certainly. In fact, interestingly, there's so Ferris Bueller's Day Off. When this is such a random bit. When his sister walks in on him, and they always have these close-up shots. She's tapping her fingers on her belt, I just remember thinking that's really, really interesting sound. How do they do? Like, obviously, they recorded it, but it didn't. It was so close, such a close sound. Because, and I was, from then I was just like, okay, that's interesting. And then I found out that not all the sound that you see is recorded on sets.
Yeah, the majority of it, a lot.
Yeah, exactly. And then it went through the wormhole from there.
Yeah, I guess that's something maybe people just don't realise is how much of the audio you get is actually has to be constructed or applied after the fact.
Yeah,
because you simply don't have the time or the conditions to record real on-set sound.
And that's that's the beauty of it. If you can, especially as a sound designer, you can do stuff and people don't realise that you've done what you've done, then that's what's so hard. It's because we've done a really good job. People sounds, unless they're constructed that, sounds shouldn't be jumping out at you as kind of post-production recording.
Yeah.
That's why people doing ADR and stuff like that, it's such a, we just deal with sound effects, but ADR is, that's another kind of, that's another thing on top, where you're kind of, ADR, dialogue replacement, where you record somebody talking afterwards, and then sync up to themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, that's really it.
And that's a big process with feature films and dramas.
And again, a lot of it is, we're not just, a lot of us are people who just sit in dark rooms looking at computers, but when you're dealing with the human side, the human element, the actors, the voiceovers, whatever, you really need to get performance out of them. And, you always forget that. It might be their first time in a studio, they might be nervous, they might have had an argument with someone in the morning or whatever. Do you know what I mean? You always need to bear in mind everything that's gone before when someone arrives at the studio, or how you're going to get the performance out of them, what you can do to make things easy. And again, it's that kind of thing. We're not just people pressing buttons. We're trying to get a performance out of the end, and we're trying to get something cohesive that everyone likes. When you've got a room full of people and you're trying to kind of do stuff, so it could be a challenge. It's a very sort of call it crowd control. They're doing a job and trying to answer questions
and in the kind of the sound design role, we briefly spoke about the emotion of sound, which is maybe something you can tell us a bit more about for people who don't quite get what that means.
Yeah, totally. I mean, obviously, I'm going to use a very sort of simple sound. You can have a door shutting, and you've got to kind of think who's shutting the door. Is it shut in an angry way? What place is it in the film? Is it a creepy door? All these kinds of things. And I'm just using this as purely as an illustrative purposes. But there are so many sounds that you can take and that are obviously part of a bigger picture. And so you have to, when you're designing sound, you have to bear that in mind, that it's not just you putting everything into this one sound. Obviously, you have to pay attention to it. You have to look at it in the broader aspect of where it is. And so you can, when you're designing sound, with scores as well, you're kind of telling the viewer, subconsciously pointing the viewer to feel a certain way at a certain, the reason horror films are scary 9 times out of 10 is because of the sounds that are going on and the freaky sounds. I mean, if you had a picture there without the sound, it's not half as scary as if you've got the kind of, the breathing, the heartbeat, the weird, noises and stuff like that. That's why, to quote, to use the older adage, sound is.
Yeah, it's definitely that kind of. It's the subconscious connection, I think, with sounds as sound and picture, isn't it? It's to join like the kind of physicality of what's happening on the screen as well.
Absolutely.
To feel like the punch and the gunshots and
exactly. I don't know. I mean, the thing as well, it's quite weird. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. being a sound person, but I've never really looked at a picture on its own, and the hairs on the back of my neck have stood up. But I'm constantly listening to sounds, and it, has a physical reaction.
Yeah.
But that pictures, maybe it's just me, but they don't. That doesn't happen with pictures. It's sound, and that's where the power.
I believe it. I mean, I think it's Steven Spielberg owes a lot of his emotion. His films are obviously famous for that kind of him being able to kind of draw an emotion out of an audience. But I think he owes a lot to John Williams and his sound designers for a lot of that. Because I mean, it can the right choice of music or sound can transform what is maybe a cheesy image into something quite powerful.
There's I can't remember what it is. There's a really funny. There's a video on YouTube, and I think it's called Chocolate Bunny Death or something like that. And it's basically a chocolate bunny with an iron lent up against it. It's kind of melting, and then a chocolate bunny put next to a lamp, and it's kind of melting away. It's got this really sweet, kind of melancholic music, and you feel so sad for the bunny. It's. I mean, emotionally, you're like, oh my god. And then there's another one where it's exactly the same pictures, but someone's put a death metal track over it, and you watch that, and you're just like, kill the fucking bunny, kill it. And that's the difference between, that's the difference the sound can make you feel as an emotion.
Yeah.
So,
I think we've touched on like some of your kind of influences, and like you mentioned Ben Burt, who I didn't know about until
every sound designer's influence. I think at some point they have to have been influenced by Ben Burt.
Yeah, and he, for those who don't know, is the guy who did the Star Wars sound design. He's responsible for like lightsaber noises, laser guns, R2D2. Yeah. So like some of the most famous sound effects ever.
Yeah. And it was all, you're thinking about things like this, and it's not, he's not pulling them from the library. He's making his own library. I mean, he's given the time to do it, but again, it's, he's that's a real craft, making it.
Yeah, one thing that struck me, I think it kind of comes back to what you were saying about the emotion as well. He created R2D2, who, when you think about it, is an object that doesn't talk or doesn't have a face, doesn't have any expression except for the noises he makes.
Yeah.
So he created this kind of language of sound that still, and he did it again with WALL-E.
WALL-E. I mean, if anyone, I just go and watch WALL-E again, basically, and think about it from a sound point.
Yeah.
Because he's conveying emotions out of bleeps, where there's no talking. And that's amazing. Pretty
mind blowing when you actually go into the kind of thought process behind it. I think there's plenty of stuff on YouTube as well. If you guys want to go and investigate Ben Burt, that's Ben Burt with 2 T's, B-U-R-T-T. There's plenty of documentaries behind the scenes and stuff about how he created all the sounds. Really ingenious kind of techno kind of retro approaches, because obviously this is 1970s we're talking about. No digital sound. It's all analog recordings.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of stuff. In fact, I was listening to a library the other day, and someone had recorded sort of various sounds and stuff, and then they kind of made it futuristic by kind of putting flangers and kind of mucking around with the sounds. And I think it's almost weird. It's almost nicer to find the sounds and use them as they are. Find weird sounds and use them on their own without doing too much to them. Because, when you listen to a lot of sounds, when you actually really start listening, a lot of sounds are quite alien. But if you base them in, you don't muck around with them too much, people still relate to them. Whereas if you kind of just hear, I don't know, an engine running with a phaser over the top of it, you can immediately think, oh, it just sounds, all kind of ends up sounding the same. Kind of, you've got that futuristic sound. Whereas if you can kind of draw on natural sounds without mucking,
Yeah.
Just go and try and find the weird sound. Don't fuck around with sound in order to make them.
Yeah. That kind of makes me think of your Audi job, which is a really cool kind of it's well, we can watch it. I don't know if we can cue that one up and maybe play that. But it's yeah, go for it.
Finding the perfect one can take time. You can never quite find the right color or even the right model. But with Audi, it's easy. You'll find your perfect one in seconds. Used cars. Finding the perfect one can take time. You can never quite find the right color or even the right model. But with Audi, it's easy. You'll find your perfect one in seconds.
Are we back? Sorry. Got Ross in the mixing room.
Okay.
Getting the sound wrong. Yeah, so I really enjoyed this this kind of sonic collage. I don't know how you would describe it.
Good. I'm glad. It was one of those things where sort of coming in the morning, think you're just doing kind of car commercial about kind of used cars or whatever, and then they didn't really have a music track for it, and they said, "Oh, we just kind of want something rhythmical." Bearing in mind this is a room full of people, most of them wearing suits. And
so you just to clarify, you had like the Audi people in the room with you.
I had the Audi people, the marketing people, the advertising agency, and so that was interesting. So you had a room full of people, and they just said they wanted something rhythmical. And I nonchalantly said, "Oh, we could maybe do something with sort of car sound." So immediately, they were like, "Yeah, let's do that." And I realised they weren't going to leave. And I was expecting them to kind of leave and come back in a couple of hours. No, they just sat there and watched me do the whole. It was, it was interesting.
No pressure.
No pressure at all. It's fine. Luckily, my colleague had actually recorded some car sounds himself in an Audi, and so I used them to create a rhythm track. And it's again sort of. This is where that kind of fucking around in the garage sort of 20 years ago kind of helped, because you just go back to square one. You just use things that you think are going to work, use them in a rhythmical fashion, sense, set a tempo, and just do that. And it was actually really nice, because the thing that helped was that the VFX at the company they were working on it at the same time, and so I was able to tell them to do their animation to a click track, which I was working. So
I see.
It worked. They weren't kind of the bodies weren't changing out of time with the music. That was a great help. So we just did that, and I think I had the idea. Someone said they wanted to bring, at the beginning, the thing that started it all was they wanted a clock ticking because time's running out. And I remember thinking, okay, so clock ticking, what is that? What's the equivalent of that in a car? You just think, okay, indicator. It's kind of tick-tock, tick-tock.
Yeah.
Interestingly as well, just as a side note, car companies spend a great deal of research into the right ticking noise for indicating.
I did wonder.
Side note there. So if you don't make it as a sound engineer, you can design indicators.
Is that where the failed sound engineers go?
That's where, yes. That's probably where the better ones go, actually.
All right. The really well-paid ones.
The really well-paid ones,
yeah.
Exactly. But no, I mean, it's one of those things because and this, again, it has some kind of science behind it. They want it to be, they want you to know that you're indicating, going off on a tangent here. They want you to know that you're indicating, but they don't want it to be too intrusive, but they want it to be intrusive enough to know you've done something, if that makes sense. So you can't just be driving down the road with your indicator on. But at the same time, it can't be an annoying click.
And it should also kind of remind you of your old Audi from the 80s.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Brand Audi.
Yeah.
There are other cars available, I might add.
Yes. We wish we could get Audi to sponsor this. I've just got just noticed there's people asking questions, which I was totally ignoring. Sorry about that.
Oh God. Okay. No. Ask away. Fire away. Let's go on. Ask away.
Okay. So we've got Kata Demur, who is asking. She'd love to hear about your work process. How do you approach the task and the problems around it?
Okay. Well, obviously each one is different. Try and strip everything back to bare bones. Work simply, and just one thing at a time. Because obviously, when you're mixing sound, designing sound, there's a lot of stuff to do. And so obviously, for instance, if you're very simply, say you're doing a TV spot, there's sync sound, i.e. sound voices from the program, sound effects, and then a music track. What we'll normally do is I'll go through, make sure that the sync dialogue is as clean as I can get it, bearing in mind it might have come from TV programs, so there might be kind of music in the background. Get it as clean as you can get it. Mix that with the music, so you've got a nice balance there. Then start working on your sound effects, and mix your sound effects, and then kind of voiceover on top. But it's try and do one thing at a time, but bearing in mind that you are building something that is going to be part of a bigger picture. They always say when you're kind of EQing stuff, for instance, it's always nice to EQ stuff, listen to something on its own, but then it's also nice, you need to listen to it in place as well. So that, it might sound great on its own, then when you listen to it in the mix, it's muddy or something like that. So, yes, work bit by bit, but bearing in mind that you're building a bigger picture, and always be aware of what you're building. Have confidence in your decisions, because I would always say as well, you haven't got to this place you haven't just fallen into this job. A lot of people I know are doing anything, in this industry, film, TV, they've got to where they're doing by really wanting to do it and going through a lot of shit to get there. So have confidence in your decision. Know what you want at the end of the day, and work towards that. Because so many times you can kind of start off in one direction and think, oh, this isn't working, and then go in another direction, and then you just end up just running around in circles. I mean, having said this, also know when stuff isn't working and
know when to stop.
Know when to stop, exactly.
I think probably a good example of the big sound mix. Would you say your Gomorrah trailer would be a good place to start with that? If we show that,
that was really interesting, because they kind of Sky came to us and said they wanted to do a really nice kind of sound design, and it was nice that we were kind of asked to come in on the creative, and they said, what would you do if you were asked to kind of do something really sound designing? And so we came up with 3 or 4 ideas, and kind of narrowed it down to the idea that we had in Gomorrah, which was basically all of the sounds, one sound turning into another sound, turning into another sound, turning into another sound. And again, this was just a really nice thing to do, playing with sort of pitching things. Babies crying are really hard to coming to us and saying, what do you want to do? What would you like to do? And yeah, so we just kind of went through nice sort of creative process and did that. And again, so that was on the sound kind of thing. And then we also kind of did the music as well. And it was I can't remember the song, but it was a classic Italian with a Dean Martin.
Oh yeah, is it That's Amore?
Yes, exactly. That's Amore.
Yeah.
Which was a nice tie-in because it was Amore and Gomorrah. Yeah, it was just really nice. And so we had that at the beginning, and then we had to turn it really dark. And so I kind of just channeled some really dark horns and synths and took the root elements of that song, played it underneath sound effects, just to again make it dark, but to keep the audience rooted in that song. So when it then resolves back into that song, it doesn't feel like it's completely out of place.
Yeah.
Playing the same notes. They're like, oh, okay, it kind of resolves itself.
Mm. Okay, should we watch?
Yeah.
Should we watch the trailer and everyone will understand what you're talking about there?
De che paura muori. Hai scambiato tutta la vita mica molto vicino a me.
Hey, yeah, I hope you guys had your sound turned up for that to get the full experience.
Yes.
So
that was just really fun. That was just a really fun job to do and really nice, collaborative. We were able to work through several ideas, and not any of the ideas were bad or anything. Just worked. And that again, it's one of those things that's really nice to be collaborative. Get that, get something that everyone likes. Again, feel that you.
Yeah, and you mentioned a bit about the music there. So how much involvement do you have in the music in something like that usually?
Normally, not that much, because people, in advertising and stuff, people will already have chosen a music track. It'll normally be something, a well-known track or something. But on the odd occasion that, we are asked to do that kind of scoring stuff, coming up with sounds for that. Yeah, we do sort of throw ourselves into it. I think the other thing is that lines more and more, especially in sort of short form stuff, are blurred or are blurring.
Yeah.
They are blurring in that sometimes now you'll get a lot of kind of musical sound design where you'll use instruments to make sound effects. So, is it music or is it sound design? Well, it's both. And I think, we're seeing that a lot now in sort of modern schools, where, you're listening to something and the lines are blurred. You've got your typical kind of sound effects, your footsteps, your gunshots, your door slams, whatever. But then you also have, the scores. The scores are kind of taking on drones and weird bits of music and stuff. Again, subconsciously pointing the viewer to feel a certain way that I think traditionally would have been more the sound design. It's certainly been more a sound design element. It's not if you're doing the score, you just do the music. Doing the sound design, all the kind of weird.
Yeah.
I think now, you are definitely crossing.
Yeah, we talked about we had a quick chat. We talked about the work, Johnny Greenwood's work on "You Were Never Really Here."
Yes.
And also the kind of the percussive kind of nature of that sound design, where you kind of it does become part of the sound design rather than the score, like you were saying.
Yes, yeah, that's the thing. There's the bits when I don't know if anyone's seen the film. It's Phoenix.
Yeah.
And he kind of plays a guy who goes after kidnapping. Anyway, I think it's towards the end of the film. He's sort of walking around a house looking for someone, not knowing if there's threat there as well. So he's kind of looking for someone that he's after to rescue, but also the people who sort of kidnapped them in the first place might be there. A very kind of creepy, empty house. Could be someone around the next corner. And Johnny Greenwood is basically it just sounds like somebody hitting something, but hitting something really odd. I don't know, like hitting a cello with a dustbin. You know what I mean? It's really weird. It's got that kind of tonal quality to it, but also is quite scary. And because it's somebody hitting something, it just makes you kind of just tense up.
Yeah. A very tense film throughout.
What, sorry?
It's a very tense film. The whole thing, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's quite, it ratchets up that tension.
No, definitely. And there was the other guys. The guys we were talking about. The guys.
Yeah. Was it the guy who did Annihilation?
Jeff Barrow and Ben Salisbury.
Salisbury, yeah.
Yeah, they did. So Annihilation, absolutely amazing. Amazing film. Amazing sort of last 15 minutes where it's just synth noises.
Yeah.
Being sort of alien talk, but
it kind of matches with. I tried to actually get the clip, but obviously copyright police are on our case. But we've got some pictures from that scene where the alien appears from that kind of orb.
Yeah, exactly.
And the sound kind of like mirrors the movement of the creature.
The sounds, and it's a weird synth sound, and it's really dark, but it's also really, it's just hats off to them. Basically, they just did a really, really good job because it's probably the last 15 minutes of that film doesn't really have any talking, but a lot happens. And so to be able to convey the ferociousness, scary nature of what Natalie Portman is confronting with synthesizer music is just really good. They've also done Devs, which is another Alex Garland film, series, and that again has strange noises that you're not really sure what they are. They're kind of layered, and they're also beautiful but also scary.
There's an intro to one of the episodes, isn't there? That's like a sound piece. Basically, it's an experimental sound piece of tribal chanting.
Oh yes, that's
just come back to me.
Sort of halfway through or something. It was is it the tribal chanting, or there's one that's a kind of it's almost like, I wanted to say it was like jazz, but it's it's kind of it's weird kind of vocals.
It's the kind of thing you would see it like an art film that's playing with. It's that experimental. It kind of like just took me out of the mode when I was watching it.
And that's, in fact, even at the beginning, even in the first episode, there's the music it's kind of a weird bagpipey, but it's a weird kind of flute. It has a kind of the velocity, if that makes sense, of a bagpipe, really hard blown, but then it sounds not wheezy or anything. It's just really weird. And then that times with the picture. The picture is like a tramp screaming at someone. And so again, you don't hear the tramp screaming, but you have this really vicious sound that sounds like somebody screaming, but it's a musical instrument. And so it's just really nice, really nicely done.
Yeah, Debs is on iPlayer for those in the UK. Definitely worth checking out. But it's challenging in a number of ways, but can be polarizing. I think it's definitely worth a watch.
Yes.
You also mentioned the guys who did Ozark and The Outsider, which are also Netflix.
Yep.
Big Netflix shows.
Yes. There was also there was a series on Channel 4. I can't remember what it's called. It's going to kill me. But that was. Let me see if I can find. But the guy who did that is
Utopia, yeah.
Utopia on Channel 4, and the guy who did that, I think, the Canadian, but he's got maybe South American roots, something like that. So a lot of the instrumentation that he uses in that is not your normal kind of instruments. They're kind of strange, percussive, tribal instruments, if you will, and then and odd time signatures as well. It's just again really freaky, but really nice, really nicely.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a discipline that's kind of it's advancing, isn't it? People are getting really experimental.
Sorry, the guy's name. Just to go. Cristobal Tapia de Veer. It sounds like. Anyway, just check it out. Utopia soundtrack or Utopia School.
We've got a few more questions here. Just having to track back through the chat here.
Been ignoring people asking us questions.
Yeah. Chris Southwell says, "What's your best use of a reverse cymbal?" Is that a sound joke?
That is a sound joke. Also, yes, that's a sound joke. My best use of a reverse cymbal, I would probably say I haven't come across my best use of a reverse cymbal yet. I'm constantly trying. A reverse cymbal is basically, it sounds exactly what it is. It's just a cymbal that's been reversed, but is nice for building tension going from one picture.
I'm glad we got the niche sound joke in there. We should have got you to queue up.
Wilhelm scream. It's the reverse cymbal.
We should have got you to queue up your favourite sounds as well, so you could play them to us on the.
That's
another show.
That's a whole nother talk.
We've got some more questions. Thero says, this might be a hard question to answer. You've got to love those questions to start with that. As your portfolio is so extensive, but what has been your favourite project you've worked on and why?
Really hard.
You were mentioning the Dove one actually that we spoke about.
Yes.
Maybe that would.
Yeah, I mean, each project has a special place in it. But no, the Dove one was really nice because it was an animation where Dove had talked to girls around the world about their sort of trials and tribulations at school and stuff like that. And so what they'd done is they'd animated their troubles at school and then kind of how they overcame them. And that was just really nice because, well, it was animation, which was brilliant. Love doing sounds for it. And then, but also doing some.
Shall we watch it and we'll come back and have a chat about it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Can we play that one?
Yeah, I think some of them are foreign.
Yeah, I think we've got the English one, so let's roll that.
Hey! Hola, Mommy. Bonjour, Papa.
How's your day?
Tu as passé une bonne journée?
How was your day?
only see perfect girls on my feed. How many filters do you need? So I suck everything in, eager to be thin. What am I supposed to wear? I mean, I love my hair, but does anyone really care? Recognition, expectation, selfie posting, hesitations. Are we all imitating imitations? Inside, I'm all neon, bursting out the scenes, but in the hole, I stay small and I tone down my writing dreams. So many endless thoughts in my head is spinning. I want to fit in, but I don't really. It's just so freaking overwhelming. I just wish I could shout about all this self-doubt and let it all out. It was fun.
Buff.
Cool. Carry on. Tell us a bit more about Dove. What did you get? Like a creative input on this as well, or what's the story there?
No, well, again, this was quite nice in that it was weird because they had a music company doing the music. In fact, no, this was quite interesting. So the music company doing the music, I was pretty much left to do the sound effects. And then they sprung that we were going to be recording the girls singing as well. So again, that's one of those things where you kind of, been a long time since I've been in a music studio professionally. So we got the girls to record, we recorded the girls singing. And it was really good, but it was one of those things again where you have the girls turn up and then family, people from the agency, people from the music company, full studio of people, and this is the first time that these girls have been in a recording studio.
Yeah.
And so you have to make sure they're comfortable. You have to get a decent performance out of them, encourage them, as well as controlling everything else that's going on in there. So that was challenging, but again, because we were able to get through it and come up with something positive, very, very rewarding. And actually, the girls weren't as daunting as I thought they were going to be. It wasn't as apparently it wasn't as daunting. They just took everything in their stride, and I guess like a lot of kids these days, they're just like, yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, okay. So that was really nice and refreshing. Really nice. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cool spot.
Yeah.
Who did the animation on that?
So who did animation? You should.
I was going to ask you because I know Unit do a lot. You take a lot of stuff in house. So how does that work in terms of like? Is it a real advantage to have like an editor on site and
so much? So much so, rather than sending stuff off across Soho and then getting it back again with a load of feedback, or kind of a picture that you didn't really work or whatever. It's really nice having people in house, like the Audi job, for instance. We did again, just having them next door and being able to go and say, guys, by the way, I'm doing it to this tempo. Can we kind of make sure that we stick to that?
Yeah.
Even if you don't listen to the song, just work to a click track or whatever, and being able to being able to see something as it develops and work along with that. So kind of work in tandem with them as opposed to just getting a product and having to fit stuff. A lot of the time, that happens. You'll get cuts through where people have done it to different music, and then people just come in and go, yeah, just make this music work. Tempo. Music,
different time signatures.
Has to adhere to a time signature.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is actually a massive advantage. Massive. Yes, it's good, and it makes our job not easier, but it's less kind of wondering what we're going to get. That makes sense.
Yeah. I think we've got more questions. No, that's what I wanted to know. Have we got any more questions? Favorite use of sound design in something recently watched?
Okay, Annihilation. It's got to be. It's got to be Annihilation, and yeah, Annihilation purely because that's the only thing.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, anything by those guys, anything by Clint Mansell. I mean, this is more talking about score stuff. Sound design.
I think Annihilation is a good one. Everyone should probably check that out if you haven't seen it already. I was going to actually ask. We've got a question from Nick who said, "What's the oddest object you've found to make the perfect sound?" I think we touched briefly on some of the interesting.
We made a musical instrument. We made some chimes. Sampled a disc cutter that goes on the end of a sort of drill for cutting out circles. Dropped one on the concrete and it made an amazing ding. And so we sampled it and turned it into played the National Geographic sting at the end of it. So that was really nice and weird. Also, I would say using, I've got an old piano that we've kind of taken to bits. And so we've got like the harp bit of the piano and running a 2p down the string of one of the pianos is a really freaky, lovely sort of horror kind of, it's nice because it has the sort of string has those sort of, what do you call it, like where it's wound, kind of bumpy. So as the coin goes over, it makes an amazing kind of reverberant sound, but also you've got that tick, 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 tick. So it's kind of creating tension as you're kind of going down, which is, it's great for horror stuff. I wouldn't use it in a dub.
Getting into the geeky stuff now, but it says on your profile that you enjoy taking stuff to pieces, and
I've got a couple of strange guitars lying around. Strange guitars mainly. Just taking, putting pickups and stuff in guitars that shouldn't really be there. I've got an old Fender Strat, but I just basically took out some. I got a couple of humbuckers, which are the two coil, getting really geeky. Like the big pickups, and I put two. What do I do? I put two of them, and I think one in the middle, in the Strat. That's stupid. But it's you do these things, and
Is that kind of music? Have you got like a sideline? Is your music hobby that you make music in your spare time?
Bit. I mean, I think we all muck about with time. Also, like playing synth drums through guitar amps, recording them. Sounds ridiculous, but yeah, that works. I mean, the odd thing now, today you can kind of get your amp modeler and you get synthesis, and you get your synth kick or whatever through. But there is something about plugging cables to other stuff that that just sounds nice, and it makes you feel like you've done something.
Yeah, is that the same for your kind of sound design? You prefer to go analog and capture the real stuff than going to the library?
And capture stuff, I'd much rather make strange noises like gunshots out of bottles than go for the obvious. But I think again, like I said, everyone who's got to this position, everyone who's doing it because it's a passion, people go above and beyond. I don't think anyone really kind of just finds it because of it is literally all we can do. So I think people who've got to this position are very passionate they do go. People, you're always going above and beyond to try and make something. You're always recording.
Yeah.
And just experimenting. I mean, it's at the end of the day, we are just sort of cooking stuff, experimenting with sounds and seeing what works.
I've got a couple more questions before we call it a day. What do you think is the most underrated aspect of sound design?
The most underrated aspect of sound design, probably all of your Foley. All the Foley being all the cloth, human body movements in a film that people don't realise are actually recorded in post. And Foley artists, here's an art. Foley artists are amazing at what they do. They can watch sort of 10 seconds of film, 20 seconds of film, watch it a couple of times, have all the bits in front of them, and then do the noises for that scene. And that blows my mind. If I'm doing Foley or something, it's record one and then bring it back, do it again. It's not kind of doing it all at once, which is underrated because people don't know. A lot of people don't know that it's happened, and it takes a long time to learn how to do that. And
that seems to be a theme with a lot of posts, and it's the best post is the stuff you don't notice.
It's only the thing, especially with sound as well. You can't really with picture people are going to hate. But with picture, you can always, yes, if you kind of shoot something wrong, you can always say, "Oh, I meant it to be like that," or whatever. There's always kind of an artistic lilt that you can kind of spin. But with sound, if you've done a really bad recording, there's no kind of, "Oh, it's meant to be really distorted and you can't hear it." No, the conversation, of course, it's not. So there's not really anywhere to hide. And so if it's good, people shouldn't notice it, which is...
It seems counterintuitive, yeah.
Which is why I guess a lot of people kind of go for the glamour, the glamour sort of jobs where it's like massive sound effects, explosion, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Whereas I think, the stuff that's really important, it's all important. It's all important. Stuff that is important that people don't notice. Probably
the small stuff. There's also a question from Lily about, do you have a favourite, an ideal project in particular, sound concept for film, TV, or games? Is there a favourite medium?
Sci-fi, just because I'm a massive sci-fi fan.
Yeah.
And yeah, that would really float my. I mean, partly just because Ben Burtt, obviously, but again, it's coming up. It's like I was saying earlier. It's coming up with weird sounds that occur every day, but people just don't listen to. That's what I would like to. That's what I would like to do. Or maybe you kind of juxtapose. I can't remember. There's a film, Assassin's Creed. Don't judge me. But I think when they were the scene in that where they're kind of looking on a futuristic computer, and actually all the noises kind of sounds like they're kind of really analogy, kind of wooden clock noises for the computer. But obviously they've mucked around with them a bit. But that kind of thing where you take something and take it out of context, put it with a kind of futuristic picture, and it becomes something different.
Yeah.
So yeah, sci-fi. John Carpenter, anything that John Carpenter.
Yeah, he did a lot of the soundtracks, didn't he, for his movies?
Exactly. Yeah, he did. I mean, Escape from New York is perhaps one of the gnarliest scores ever. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
He's a multi-talented chap, John.
Absolutely. I mean, what? But this is the thing. Why not make a film and then do the score yourself?
Yeah.
It's like, of course. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just seeing if there's any more questions, but I think we've covered a huge amount of ground without me going into too much detail on guitar, Frankenstein guitars. Yeah,
we can do a part 2 if you want.
Yeah, we'll come back for that.
Bikes.
Just modding guitars and bikes.
Yeah.
But it's been really fun chatting to you. Thanks for giving us your time.
It's been great.
Especially because you are still working at the moment, so we really appreciate that.
My diary got cleared for this afternoon, but I think we're back to the grindstone tomorrow.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it's been good, and hopefully we'll all be out of this. We'll all be out of this.
Hope so. Yeah. I hope we can get together for a few drinks at Unit at some point.
Yeah, no, definitely. Have a little summer in Soho, summer in NoHo.
Yeah.
Down to the news.
Yeah. So thanks for everyone. Thanks for tuning in. I think we've had a few of the Unit guys on the chat, and everyone else who's joined us, whether you've come from the dots or following us on wherever you follow us. If you don't follow us, then start following us. Check out Unit and follow them. Do you have a Instagram presence, Jamie?
There's about 6 pictures on there. It's
okay.
Jamie Makes Noise. I might have, I don't know, probably under 50 followers.
Okay, go and push Jamie over 100 followers.
Yeah, it's just Jamie Makes Noise. So that's but it's just work and stuff. So
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Thanks very much. I guess I'll just say goodbye. I don't want to get into this old rambling.
No, perfect.
No, you say goodbye.
All right, buddy.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Cheers. Thanks, everyone. See
ya. Bye-bye.